Hey, yo, this is Zacchaeus with another live word of the day. Now, I have a special video that I want to share that was been on my mind since the passing of artists from the group Migos take off. First of all, I want to give a condolences to his family. I want to also give a condolences to Offset. I want to also give a condolences to Quavo and the Migos family, the whole entire family, and R.I.P. to Take Off. Blessings, brother. R.I.P. I want to just reflect on. That's why I have all these artists up here, because I want to reflect on the unnecessary killing of all these artists. But I know it's going to be. It might take a while. This video might be a little longer, but that's okay because I want to reflect. And I remember growing up in New York, hearing the first murder in hip hop, and that was from this artist, DJ Scott LaRock, out of the Boogie Down Productions. Big up to KRS-One, the Boogie Down Productions. Back in 1987, that was the first murder I ever heard, was DJ Scott LaRock. The first murder in hip hop, I would say. And nobody, I don't know if they found the murder for Scott LaRock, but I remember that. I remember that as a little kid. Well, I didn't even enter high school yet at the time, but I remember hearing that murder. And as time went on, and let's bring it back now. I'm swinging into the 90s, and I'm just golden era. This is just the golden era of hip hop. And I remember hearing the murder of Tupac back in 1996, mid-90s, 1996. I remember hearing him shot in 1995. When he got shot in 95, he survived. But then in 1996, he was actually died in the hospital. He didn't die right away, but he died in the hospital. Senseless. Whoever found the murderer for that case? There was speculations, but nobody found the murderer for that case. Fast forward, 1997, Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls. I remember hearing that murder, just the same way how I remember hearing Tupac died that night. Well, actually, he died in the hospital. He was shot, then he died in the hospital. He didn't die right away. But I remember when Biggie Smalls, I remember like as clear as day. It was a Saturday night. My friend called me up. This is when we had the rotary phone. My friend called me up and told me, said, listen, yo, I think Biggie got killed. He got killed in LA. And I was like, my gosh, killed in LA. I was like, oh, what was he doing in LA? Listen, he's from Brooklyn, New York. So I said, he must be doing a concert and thing out there. But remember when my friend called me Sunday morning, that morning. And then I turned on the radio, it was all over the radio waves. He was killed. I was like, wow, Biggie Smalls died? I was shocked out of my mind that he was murdered. I was shocked out of my mind. And I just didn't understand the life of me why they couldn't find the murderer. Who killed Biggie? There were speculations, but who killed him? As time went on. And I was sad about that. And as time went on, now I'm talking going into the early 2000s, maybe mid-2000s, early 2000s, Jam Master Jay from Run DMC. Oh my gosh. When I heard that, I was taken back. I was like, he was in Hollis, Queens. When he got murdered, they raided the studio and shot him. But who did it? It's an unsolved mystery. Who murdered Jam Master Jay? Crazy. Big up to Run DMC. Condolences to them. Condolences to the mother of Biggie. Condolences to the family of Tupac. Who killed him? And then as time went on, Freaky Ty from the Lost Boys. I think Freaky Ty was, I want to say, I don't know, I'm not too sure, but I remember hearing about his murder, Freaky Ty. If correct me if I'm wrong, if you listen to this video, I don't know if it was before Jam Master Jay or a little after Jam Master Jay, but Freaky Ty from the Lost Boys. I remember hearing about his murder. And I didn't, and I'm like, wow, but nobody's able to find these murderers. Nobody's able to find these murderers. You know? Nobody's able to find these murderers. And going into the 2000s and King Von. Now I'm hearing King Von, before a little bit before King Von was Triple X, the brother right here with the blue dress, Triple X, and then I'm hearing about and this is going into the 2000s, or like in the 2020s, every week. That before then, it was Magnolia. This is big up to the females too. Magnolia Shorty out of New Orleans. Magnolia Shorty, she got killed. She was not so known in the North, but she was up and coming, big time hip hop artist. Condolences to her family. Magnolia Shorty, crazy murder spree. If you go on YouTube, you can look up Magnolia Shorty. She was a hip hop artist out of New Orleans at the time. But she died probably about the mid to early 2000s. She was murdered, and it just the saga. It just continues to go on and go on, and you know what I'm hearing about, even before I could even talk about Pasco, I gotta mention Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle, what a senseless murder. This man was bigging up his community in Crenshaw and everything like that. And then on the other here that he got killed was a senseless murder, and they called the person that killed him. I believe they did. They called the person that killed him, but it's just a sick situation that continues to go. Now, it seems to me like every single month an artist is getting killed. You know, 2020 was Pop Smoke. Then Young Dolph. Then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, then after Young Dolph was PNB Rock. You know, big up to the other female artists that I didn't mention, but the Bandit out of Ohio. She was murdered senselessly. I don't know if they called the bandits, but I don't believe they called I believe that they called the murderers for Boot the Bandit. But also, you know, PNB Rock sitting in the restaurant with a significant other. I don't know. These things, sometimes when you hear things, don't take everything verbatim. Do not take everything verbatim, because sometimes some things and some news is just a smoke screen. Certain rituals and certain things are sometimes as a setup. It's a setup sometimes to keep a smoke screen to a lot of us that just take the media for it and just take the news for what it is. But sometimes things are not always what it always is. Stop looking at media and thinking that's the news. It's not always the news. Sometimes there's hidden, there's some certain things that are not seen behind the scenes. And the media just put out a story. And sometimes it's not all what it seems to be. There's more to the story than what it is. That's what I'm trying to get at too. So we gotta be mindful of that too. Not everything that you hear is what it is. Not everything. Some things are set up. There's some things in the industry that cloud around the industry. There's some things that's in this whole industry that's been clouded. There's things there's some rituals and there's some sacrifices. And that's another thing with music. And DMX said it right. If you listen to DMX, speeches before his death, if you go on YouTube and listen to some of his speeches, DMX was saying it. Tupac was saying it in little ways too. But DMX was saying it a whole lot during his speeches. He was talking about the industry. Look on YouTube and look up the industry by DMX. Listen to what the man is saying. Listen to how he speaks. Listen to what he's saying. You know, it's just a continuation of this thing that's got to stop. But certain things and certain sacrifices are made. Sometimes you're in the industry. I'm an artist, and I'm an artist. I'm an independent artist, gospel soca artist. But I can also speak about hip hop because I grew up in New York listening to hip hop since the 80s. So I can speak, I can speak on it and I can elaborate on it. And I know a lot of artists growing up listening to a lot of buying cassette tapes. See, I go way back then, man. Listen to cassette tapes. Listen, I lived in New York when the radio station 98.7 was run by was actually a hip hop station back in the early 90s. So I can speak on it. Yes. Plus I release albums. Big up to the Fifth General. I released album, a hip hop artist. He's a hip hop artist out of Staten Island, New York, and we collab on a hip hop project together. I did some dancehall reggae on that album. So so I can speak on it. Yes. So going back to this sad situation, going back to this whole murdering culture, this whole senseless killing, this going back to this, man. And so certain things that you got to do to get into the industry. The industry is a beast in itself, and there's certain sacrifices you have to make, and certain sacrifices you have to do to fit to the industry. You don't have to believe me, but there's an artist, she's not in hip hop, named Katy Perry. She said, I have to sell my soul to get into the industry. If I want to get to certain plateaus in the industry, there's certain things I have to do. But I don't want to get off the topic. The topic is on the senseless murders of these artists, these legendary artists. I call them legendary. I'm calling them legendary. My heart goes out to all of them. They're all the families, and it's just senseless. Consistent murders every month. I'm hearing a trap artist, hip hop artist murdered. And the reason why I build up, sometimes I speak on sacrifice and rituals, because sometimes you can't even find that the murderers are nowhere to be found. Most of the time, the murderers are nowhere to be found. So, and sometimes it's just a small screen. It happens one month. Okay, like Young Dolph, he got murdered. Who was accountable for this man's murder? Young Dolph. And are they investigating PNB Rock's murder? I don't know. And now, what really disturbed me, I'm like, PNB Rock died like maybe 2 weeks ago. Now I'm hearing Takeoff from the group Migos killed in Houston at a party, bowling alley, Halloween. A lot of death on Halloween. A lot of death. Even they had the Chicago shooting, I heard, on Halloween night. Also around the world, India was a lot of death. And actually, no, Korea. And in India too, I heard too. But a lot of death. I always say this. Always embrace your family, because you never know when it's going to be your last. Always embrace your family. Always show love to the loved ones out there. Always embrace them. And if you don't have to hang, if something don't feel right in your spirit about a certain group you're hanging with or certain people you're hanging with, sometimes they have these industry parties and you just invited to come out and something don't feel right. It's best to follow your heart. Because sometimes certain things don't feel right. Sometimes you're around some people, watch your company. Sometimes you're around your people and certain things just doesn't feel right. Always follow your spirit, always follow your mind. And say sometimes you just feel like staying home with your family, do that. But something has got to be done. And it's sad that guys don't even reach 30 years old yet. Look at Pop Smoke. He not even think Pop Smoke was 19 or 20. It's the same thing with Boot the Bandit. These people are young. These people are young. Takeoff, not even 30 yet. These people are young. These people are young, man. But something's got to be done. Abandon the guns, you think that will do it? Leave a comment. Or sometimes the industry is filled with sacrifices that we don't know about. The industry is filled with this. I used to say this. I used to say sometimes that, oh, hip hop is sold. And sometimes I even came to the concept that, well, hip hop was sold to the devil. Oh, yes. Big up to Big L. Died senselessly back in 98, 99, I want to say. R.I.P. to Big L. R.I.P. to Magnolia Shorty. R.I.P. to everybody and all the artists that I didn't listen on this screen. R.I.P. to them that was murdered senselessly. It's a list. If you go on YouTube, there's a whole list of artists that's just murdered senselessly during the mid to 2000s times, 2020 times, 2014, 15, going on, 2003, 05. This just senseless murdering. And I don't know. Sometimes I think it's blood sacrifices. Sometimes I think it's a lot of setups. All I know is a big setup. It's no and if and buts about it. Things just don't happen just to happen. I believe in my heart that a lot of these murders are setups. They're all set up. Set up. There's sacrifices that need to be made and they're set up. There's rituals that need to be followed and there's setups. All set up. You cannot just take it verbatim. Take it, oh, well, he was just murdered. No. Things are just setups. Set up. And I truly believe that. When we, as Black people, sold hip-hop, it was sold. The industry was sold. We had it during the golden era. We had it during the golden era where messages was in the music. Now it's about gun clapping and catching bodies and gun clapping. If it's not gun clapping, he has a little partying. He has a bit of sex in the music, but that's always been there. But now it's about, listen to some lyrics. Lately, it's been about gun clapping. Maybe for a long period of time, for a good period of time. I always say this, even in the, I had a message on one of my reels about life and death is in the power of the tongue, which is true. Life and death, the scriptures, life and death is in the power of the tongue. But this is Zacchaeus. This is a live word of the day. And check out the word of the day. It's called, blessed is the man that maketh the Lord his trust. Psalms 40 verses 4. Blessed is the man who maketh the Lord his trust. We trust in the Lord. That's what we trust in. Because you don't know who you're hanging with. You don't know who's setting you up. You don't know who's lying and trying to set you up so certain things can go down. You don't know. Sometimes people could be jealous of you, which I believe happened to some of these artists. Sometimes it's just a ritual that people put in place for it to be followed so they could be set up. So always be aware of your surroundings and always be aware of who is handling your business and who's around you. Sometimes I feel that the solution of all these artists being open and walking around should walk around with consistent security around them. You should have better protection when you're around you and be aware of your surroundings. Because you never know. You never know. You never know. Well, this is Zacchaeus with another live word of the day. Scriptures, blessed is the man that maketh the Lord his trust. Psalms 40 verses 4. God bless y'all. Be safe out there and watch your surroundings. Be careful, y'all. God bless. This is Zacchaeus.